wish it didn't have a history. If we just thought of it as a thing, like a Wolverine, right? Wolverines don't have any. There's no one feels about a Wolverine the same way they think about a bear, because there's no like cute Wolverines. Mm-hmm. There's only the ones that you see in like X-Men, like the Wolverine dudes.
It's just one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But he's like a person.
This is Comic Book Lexicon. I'm Stephen Thomas.
And I'm Joshua of Grand Rapids.
And this is the final part of our lead up to Wolverine Volume 2.
Yep.
This was published in 1988. It's written by Chris Claremont, penciled by John Buscema, inked by Klaus Janson, lettered by Tom Orzechowski, and colored by Glynis Oliver.
And there are no flamethrowers in the whole story.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting. Like, I wonder... And this person has a safety pin in their ear.
They're also blonde, and I don't think any of the street punks are white.
Yeah.
I think they're all native to Madripoor.
So where we left off in the Save the Tiger storyline is the final confrontation between Wolverine and Razorfist.
Yes.
So they're fighting. While that's happening, Jess and Hone is in the dungeon trying to save O'Donnell, and she's in a fight with the Inquisitor.
Yeah.
And he's got his like hot poker out. He's about to hit her with it. She is offensive. It just kind of goes back and forth between the Razorfist fight and the Jess and Hone situation.
Yeah, explaining everyone's personal climax isn't that interesting, likely, but the pacing and the way he times everything out with the storytelling is really, really great.
Yeah. And again, we're going to see this a bunch of times. He's got to keep bringing up that Wolverine has a healing factor. So it's got to keep getting that reminder in there. So that leads us up to, I like this panel right here. She's on top of the Inquisitor. Even though this isn't
smashing his face,
extremely violent, I don't know, it's just funny to me because it seems cartoonish, just smashing his face against the ground. And again, we talked about like how much I love, like this is such a simple panel, but she looks like so maniacal. Sapphire Sticks looks so maniacal on this page. And then she grabs her by the hair, throws her, and she's getting ready to suck the life out of Jess and Hone.
Yes.
It cuts back to Razorfist, and they're doing their thing. As she's getting ready to lights out, Jess and Hone musters up enough courage to reach out and bite Sapphire Sticks in the neck.
Yes.
Which is cool.
Reversing the role of victim and vampire.
Yes.
It's to be clear, like Sticks is not a literal vampire. She's very much an energy vampire. So
yeah,
having this imagery go the other way around, still symbolic, very nice, and it's a fun gag.
Yeah.
I want to, with the parallels or not, to see that imagery be in more fights.
Yeah.
Like just somebody like just
biting a vampire.
Going full dog and going for the jugular on whoever you're fighting.
So after she hits Sapphire Sticks, is able to like get her off her, the Inquisitor grabs Sapphire Sticks and gets her out of there because they realize that Jess and Hone is pretty powerful, even though she's very tired and weakened from having some of the power sucked out of her. This cuts back to Razorfist and Wolverine. The final climax of the fight between them is like a feat of strength.
They only managed to lock claws once before Wolverine plants all six in his stomach.
Yes, and then we get this really wild expression on Wolverine's face at the end of part 9 of this. And so it says it's Roche's turn, so you assume we're going to start the next part with him looking to find Roche.
Yeah.
And that's basically where it starts. He saves O'Donnell. I mean, O'Donnell's saved at this point.
Right.
But he's like pretty fucked up.
He's not getting out of there on his own, so Wolverine's gotta do the thing.
Yeah. The definitely action movie thing where he puts his arm around him and he walks him out of there. As he's walking out, we see Roche with the shotgun and he fires off right into Wolverine's chest.
Yeah.
It even says, I take the entire 8-round box right on the breastbone. After he unloads on Wolverine, we see Jess and Hone come out of the bushes with a sword. And there's not a big battle, but she just chops his fucking head off.
Yeah. Swiftly beheads him with one of the most attractive panels you could give the aftermath ever following it up.
Yeah.
That's a gorgeous shot of a head laying next to its body.
What's interesting is I draw a lot of blood and gore in my artwork, but
Yeah.
I'm very I admire and I am just as excited as seeing how Buscema is able to kind of I don't know, is able to waltz through this violence without making it look overly gory, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So now Jess and Hone she thinks Wolverine is dead and she's pretty upset about it. She kisses him and she's like, oh, I dragged you into this fight. I'm sorry.
Yeah, she feels responsible for his death.
Yeah, but O'Donnell's like, I'm going to make sure that he's respectfully buried and whatnot.
Right.
And Wolverine is basically whatever, I'm going to be gone by the time you come back to pick my body up.
Yet another excuse to hear about his abilities. And
Yeah, it's got to talk about his healing factor again. So, the next page, we cut to the Princess Bar. And Jess and Hone, I like this dress that they put her in. It's almost implies the transformation to being the new overlord of...
Yeah, instead of living in the shadows, she can be more ostentatious. She has the agency to be conspicuous now.
Yep. And
it also looks like something you'd see Will Portasio draw on Storm.
Yeah, totally. So Wolverine shows up and she's so surprised that he's alive. She throws this dagger at him. I wasn't totally clear on if she threw the dagger on at just saw some stranger, threw the dagger, and then she's like, oh shit, it's you. Right. Or if she was there's no way you can be alive, so I'm about to throw this dagger at you, whatever. You know? Could be either, I guess. Then we see Wolverine and we see him in the famous patch tuxedo.
Yes.
Which you see later in Volume 1.
Picture Joe Fix-It Hulk right there.
Yeah. Is it issue 8? Volume 1, issue 8 or whatever.
Volume 2, issue 8.
Volume 2, issue 8, yeah. And she's very happy that he's alive. And then you see this weird panel, but basically what happens is she slices his wrist. He's bleeding from wrist. She slices her wrist. Then they put their wrists together to pledge a whatever fealty to each other. And then they make out.
I like that they make her taller than him.
Yeah. Yep. And then she must sink down to kiss him. Leaning with her arms down on his shoulders. And
well, I mean, she had to drag him out of the water, and she talked about how heavy he was. I mean, maybe she's just being a jerk and lifting her legs up so he can pay her back the favor.
Yeah.
She's into being even.
So that ends the Marvel Comics Presents Wolverine issue 1 through 10, the Save the Tiger storyline.
Yeah, and we got a little bit of a follow-up, and it's very awkward.
Now, even though this came out at the same time as issue 1...
Yeah, there's no date on this outside of 88, but unless Marvel Age Annual number 4 came out in a different time than the rest of their annuals, all the annuals come out during the summer.
Yeah.
Which would have put this... I mean, they usually come out in August. Would have put this right before the early September date on the first issue of this entire 10-issue thing.
So it's interesting because this is everyone who was involved in the series except, let's see, it's Claremont, Buscema, Jansen, Orzechowski, and the only difference is the coloring is Gregory Wright. So all the people who are involved in the story that we just went over except for the colorist. But it's strange because in the very first part of that story has a very similar introduction to Madripoor, right? Yes. But we don't see Patch in or Wolverine in this costume until issue or part 9.
Practically the end of this
Yeah,
story.
or part 8. And it's this whole thing plays out sort of like what you described, almost like an advertisement or like a preview trailer.
It's like previously on X-Men, but it's also an advertisement for the oncoming Wolverine solo series.
Yes, and it talks about just like an introduction to Madripoor, and it also introduces some characters we're gonna see later in Volume 2, Jessica Drew, and but yeah, like even this feels very much like a weird advertisement in an advertisement. Like,
Well, I mean that's the thing that they like playing around with a lot, seemingly particularly in the X-Men books.
yeah,
So you'll see it later, but Marvel Comics exist in Marvel Comics,
yeah, that's so weird.
and it is weird.
What's
but
the word
it's,
for that?
it's,
Meta? Or-
It's meta and it's weird, but it's also pretty canny as far as storytelling goes, because whether they license their images or not, and half these people can't because they have secret identities. So what are you gonna do? Sue me?
yeah.
Like, there would be unlicensed or licensed merchandising
Yeah, that's
for
true.
all these people.
That is
mean,
interesting.
if you see athletes on Wheaties, and I mean, we saw a comic book adaptation from the same time this was made today when we were digging through the bins for Tom Hanks's Big.
Yeah.
They were making comic books of everything at this time, so especially when this is coming out, it would be a safe bet that in the Marvel Comics universe, there would be comics of everything.
Yeah, especially if you didn't have to clear a license or something like that. But then, yeah, it talks about X Factor and X-Men, and introduce.
It's given us the whole fallout of the Fall of a Mutant situation.
Yeah, but then it shows the Princess Bar, and really, it's like, don't miss the first issue of Wolverine on sale soon. So it's like,
the whole point of all 4 or 6 of these pages is just that.
yeah,
It's really weird.
So and that's all we have for the lead up to Wolverine Volume 2.
Yes.
And that's going to be the next series of videos as far as the Wolverines go that we release.
It's where stuff starts getting really, really fun, though.
Yeah. Now, what I love about we talked about this briefly in the book. For one, seeing Buscema do Wolverine solo is incredible.
Yeah.
I mean, his artwork is so impressive. Just his drawing ability, like, it flows so well, and then Klaus doing the inks lends this kind of traditional but also like loose, and I don't know, I just feel like the combination of the two really like kind of complement each other really well.
Yeah. Yeah, he brings a more contemporary vibe to the highly, highly traditional line work that you get out of Buscema. So it's this meeting ground between early Bronze Age, late Silver Age classicism, and that late Bronze Age, early Copper Age, if you want to call it that, Dark Age, whatever, like grittiness.
Yeah. And the coloring, I think, is great. It's like you can even see, to me,
Glynis Oliver is great.
yeah, like I think there's even like when you look at that annual compared to these other issues,
Yeah.
it's like this. I feel like the
She
coloring.
even knew how to make colors like this reproduce.
Yeah.
She knew how to color for reproduction better than the gentleman who did this, because they're working with similar colors here
Similar
on the
palette.
same stock, and it's you've got this moire pattern going on here, because when they did the separations, I'm betting this was a fine colorist who had their stuff sent out to a different person to do separations, and Glynis Oliver is a consummate colorist, and I'm quite sure she does her own separations most of the time, so you don't get this moire pattern from her lining up whatever makes the blue dots for the purple, whatever amber lith sheet that is with the magenta beneath it. Like, everything gets done right.
Yeah. And, you know, to that point, what we talked about briefly for a second earlier, this is sort of special, this run, because when we get to volume 2, a lot of that early run is on the different kind of paper, what we call...
Yeah, it's on Baxter paper. It was like, there's a Wikipedia article about it if you want to look up about Baxter paper. It's surprisingly not inaccurate.
But my Baxter paper is like thin, like newsprint, but colors print, or like colors lay a little bit more flat on it than...
It's not as toothy as newsprint. It's a little bit smoother, and it's a whole lot whiter.
Yeah.
And when you mix the two together, like the smoothness, it's not gulping up as much of the ink, so the colors are going to look brighter. And then you're throwing that on top of an absolutely pure white.
Yeah.
Not even eggshell.
Yeah. And so, you know, me and Josh both really like a lot of these old newsprint printings because you can see all the, like, print distortion and like the layers of different colors, and there's like a lot of depth and warmth to it. So looking at this in the reprint version is fine, but to me, this is, as art is concerned, is a better experience.
Yeah. And these colorists were all producing their work to be reproduced on newsprint, and they would have dialed it back a little bit.
Yeah.
If they knew it was going on Baxter paper, and some of them do.
Yeah.
But it's unfortunate that this anthology series gets a better color treatment than this exciting new series that was printed on an exciting new paper that was only ever released on books meant for the direct market. So it's like, you know, it's something special just for fans or whatever.
Yeah.
It's unfortunate that it was a little bit misused.
Yeah. But this is a special, like I said, we talked about before, it's a really special combination of different people who got together to make this story, and they're gonna come back for volume 2 of Wolverine. That's all we have for the lead up to volume 2. All of our information is in the description of this video. My Instagram, Josh's Instagram, the Comic Book Lexicon Instagram. And if you haven't seen, this is the 4th part of this lead up to volume 2. So go back and watch part 3, 2, and 1 if you haven't already. And thanks for watching.
Yeah. See you in volume 2.